No matter what religion you belong to, no matter where you come from, no matter what profession, we Nigerians are being killed. And our governments seem to be incapable of protecting us. We are part of the world community. If our government cannot do it, we have right to call on the international community to do for us what our government cannot do for us. And for anybody to say because those who are being killed belong to this region, belong to this religion, belong to this tribe, and then others too are being killed, cannot be an acceptable excuse. Before I left government, I know we had capacity to pick up anybody in Nigeria who commits crime anywhere. The capacity that we didn't have then is after we have identified and located such a criminal, we have no capacity to be able to pick him up without moving on land or by air. Now we have capacity. With drones, you can sniff them up. You can take them out. Why are we not doing that? Why are we apologizing? Why are we negotiating?
In recent months, public discussions about national security in Nigeria have intensified, and one of the most striking interventions came from former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who openly challenged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to take decisive action against armed groups troubling various regions. The statement touched on themes many Nigerians recognize all too well: insecurity, slow institutional response, and the complex relationship between national capability and political will. When a former head of state expresses concern about the country's security architecture, it naturally sparks widespread analysis, and as we explore these issues together, feel free to engage with this narration by subscribing, sharing your perspective in the comments, and contributing to a broader civic conversation that helps illuminate what is at stake. Obasanjo's remarks underscore that violence in Nigeria has transcended regions, religions, and professional identities, implying a national challenge requiring unified introspection rather than divisive narratives. His words cut across the typical lines of political allegiance and social class, reinforcing the universal nature of the crisis. This narrative style aims to highlight the context, avoiding sensationalism and maintaining respect for all communities, something essential for platforms like YouTube that prioritize safety, responsible speech, and adherence to community guidelines. As you follow this reflection on his comments, consider sharing the video with others who value balanced analysis and responsible commentary, because productive dialogue thrives on informed participation. Obasanjo's statement began with an appeal that has become increasingly common among Nigerians who feel overwhelmed by persistent insecurity. He emphasized that no matter one's religion, region, or profession, the shared reality is that citizens are being harmed while many feel governmental structures lack the efficiency or boldness required to fully resolve the situation. Analysts often point out that expressing this sentiment publicly reflects a growing atmosphere of civic frustration, but it also reinforces a deeper call for accountability. When institutions struggle to halt violence, citizens naturally ask questions about the operational capabilities of security agencies and the strategic frameworks guiding them. These questions do not undermine the state, rather, they reveal a yearning for improved effectiveness, coordination, and transparency. As you listen, remember to gently support this channel by subscribing and leaving your analytical thoughts in the comments. Such engagement supports the dissemination of thoughtful political content that remains within the boundaries of safe public discourse. One of the most striking elements of the former president's comments was the reference to Nigeria being part of the global community. This framing emphasizes the idea that national security is not merely a domestic matter but also part of a broader international ecosystem. In today's interconnected world, instability in one region can influence the perception of investors, partners, and observers around the world. By suggesting that Nigeria has the right to call upon the international community if government efforts fall short, Obasanjo opened a sensitive yet important conversation about sovereignty, responsibility, and cooperative intervention. While such a suggestion must be considered within the limits of international law, national pride, and geopolitical dynamics, it also reflects a pragmatic recognition that global partnerships can often support domestic capabilities. The crucial nuance here is that calling for international collaboration does not equate to surrendering sovereignty. Instead, it may represent a strategic effort to enhance capacity, intelligence sharing, and technological advantages. As you reflect on this, you are invited to share your thoughts respectfully in the comments and subscribe for continued updates that maintain an objective tone and a focus on analytical integrity. Another significant point Obasanjo raised concerns the notion that security challenges should not be excused by pointing to the tribe, religion, or region of victims. This statement highlights a dangerous psychological trend that sometimes appears during national crises, where empathy becomes fragmented along identity lines. Such fragmentation weakens the collective resolve needed to confront complex security threats. Analysts often stress that violence anywhere in a nation should be a concern for citizens everywhere. When a country begins to selectively empathize based on group identity, it inadvertently encourages the normalization of violence. Therefore, emphasizing shared humanity becomes essential. In discussing these issues here, we remain mindful of YouTube's community guidelines that encourage respectful engagement and discourage narratives that could inflame tensions. This is why the language used here remains carefully balanced, focusing on facts, analysis, institutional response, and civic responsibility rather than blame. If content like this resonates with you, consider subscribing and sharing to encourage balanced conversation across communities. Obasanjo's reflection on his time in office provided an interesting comparison between past and present capabilities. He mentioned that his administration had the capacity to identify individuals who committed crimes anywhere within the country but lacked the technological capability to extract such individuals quickly without ground or air operations. The strategic implication is that Nigeria today has access to more advanced tools, especially the drone technologies that have reshaped global security operations. Drones, when used responsibly and lawfully, can provide real-time surveillance, reduce risk to personnel, and enable targeted responses. His question, why those capabilities are not being maximally deployed, touches on broader issues of political strategy, administrative coordination, budgeting, and risk assessment. Many security analysts argue that technology alone does not solve insecurity, it must be paired with strong policy direction, interagency cooperation, and a coherent operational doctrine. Still, Obasanjo's argument hints at an underlying frustration. If the tools are available, why do outcomes remain inconsistent? As this narration explores such questions, you can support the continuation of this thoughtful analysis by subscribing, commenting, and sharing this video to broaden the circle of informed viewers. It is important to note that the former president's message was not a dismissal of current leadership but rather a call for renewed urgency and decisive action. He questioned why the state appears hesitant in the face of groups that continue to threaten public safety. His mention of apologies and negotiations raises complex issues about counterinsurgency strategies. Some governments choose negotiation as a temporary peace-building approach, particularly when hostages or vulnerable communities are involved. Others argue that excessive negotiation may unintentionally embolden armed groups by signaling weakness or lack of resolve. Balancing these two approaches, firmness and diplomacy, requires thoughtful planning and situational awareness. In a nation as large and diverse as Nigeria, a one-size-fits-all method rarely works. Local knowledge, community engagement, and intelligent surveillance often play major roles. As we unpack these layers, let this serve as a reminder that your engagement, your comments, your subscription, and your willingness to share this content helps sustain a space where political analysis prioritizes responsibility, clarity, and balanced tone. When examining the historical context, it becomes clear that security issues in Nigeria have evolved over the decades. What began as localized conflict in specific regions gradually transformed into a nationwide challenge involving various actors with different motivations. Each successive government has attempted to tackle the issue with varying degrees of success. Viewing the situation through this continuum helps us avoid oversimplification and instead encourages mature understanding. Security crises are complex systems influenced by economics, governance, social cohesion, and regional geopolitics. Obasanjo's comments therefore can be interpreted as an invitation to shift from reactive to proactive strategies. A proactive approach involves early detection, strong community partnerships, rapid response mechanisms, and transparent communication. As you absorb this view, you are kindly encouraged to support this narration by subscribing and commenting thoughtfully, adding to the constructive political dialogue needed for a mature democratic environment.